In a luxurious villa nestled within a windswept suburb, where whispering pines composed a facade of peaceful melody, Richard Bierman stood as a paragon of success. Neighbors in the West Palm Beach enclave viewed his family with a mixture of admiration and envy. Richard, a high-level engineer with a gentle smile, and Jennifer, his dutiful wife, a former preschool teacher who dedicated her life to nurturing their home. Their existence mirrored a flawless oil painting, afternoon tea parties, extravagant vacations, and the tender way Richard guided his wife as she stepped out of their late-model car. Yet, behind the intricately carved oak doors, certain sounds never escaped. The wind whistling through the crevices seemed to tell a different story, one of suffocating control and nameless terrors. In the eyes of her friends, Jennifer was a happy woman. But a closer look revealed eyes that darted nervously, seeking her husband's approval before answering even the simplest question. Richard did not just manage the finances. He regulated the very breath of the house. Every kitchen utensil, every vase of flowers had to sit exactly where he dictated. The perfection Richard constructed was not love. It was a modus operandi of a master manipulator, where order served as an invisible iron cage. On a fateful March afternoon, the neighborhood's silence was shattered by ambulance sirens. Jennifer was found motionless at the foot of the wooden staircase. Richard knelt beside her, wailing in agony, his trembling hands clutching the shoulders of the paramedics. The scene appeared to be a tragic slip-and-fall accident. A fragile wife, a slippery step, and a devastated husband. However, as investigators entered, they sensed a strange atmosphere. The house was clean, extremist clean. There was no trace of disturbance, no half-finished glass of water, not even a speck of dust on the handrail where Jennifer had just fallen. This perfection, rather than proving a disciplined life, began to spark the first suspicions of a meticulously planned scheme. A calculated act of premeditation designed to mask a gruesome reality. You are watching the darkest criminal profiles on our channel. If you are a devotee of suspenseful cases and wish to dive deep into the shadows of criminal psychology, do not forget to subscribe right now. Hit like and leave a comment saying, "I want to know the truth," to fuel our digital investigative team. Your support is the key to unlocking buried cases. Police began dissecting Jennifer's life leading up to the tragedy. She had not always been so quiet. Recovered digital diaries revealed a woman once full of life, a lover of music who yearned to open her own preschool. But since her marriage to Richard, those dreams had withered away. Richard controlled every call, every message. He created a world where Jennifer believed she could not survive without him. Discreet bruises on her wrists were often dismissed as clumsiness, but old friends recalled sudden cancellations or her vanishing from social events without reason. This isolation was not accidental. It was the first step in breaking the victim's will. In the days following the funeral, Richard continued to play the role of the grieving widower perfectly. He organized a grand memorial service, delivering a poignant eulogy for his late wife. Yet, amidst the theatrical sobs, a tiny detail caught the eye of a seasoned investigator. Richard never looked at his wife's portrait once during the ceremony. Instead, he stared at his own reflection in the opposite mirror, as if checking if his expression was convincing enough. Every move Richard made felt programmed. His grief lacked the chaos of genuine emotion. It was performative. This excessive perfection prompted the authorities to take a bold step, requesting an intensive autopsy instead of accepting the initial accident report. They began to suspect that beneath the veneer of a sophisticated gentleman lurked a smiling monster, waiting to inherit a massive fortune from his wife's life insurance. Suspicions peaked when detectives discovered a damning detail. Just 2 weeks before the incident, Richard had secretly tripled Jennifer's insurance coverage. Why would a wealthy man suddenly worry about the death of his young, healthy wife? The answer lay buried in encrypted files on Richard's personal computer, where he had spent hours researching staircase blind spots and blood coagulation time after head trauma. The perpetrator had spent months designing a flawless death. But in the world of criminology, nothing is absolute. A small crack in Richard's plan appeared when a neighbor mentioned hearing a dog barking ferociously at the exact time Richard claimed to be napping. The Bierman's dog, a loyal creature, had witnessed what Richard wanted buried forever. The investigation entered a high-tension phase, as detectives overturned every stone in the West Palm Beach villa. Richard maintained a terrifyingly calm demeanor, but behind that widower facade, a war of nerves was brewing. Police did not rush into a direct confrontation. They silently gathered fragments to build a panoramic view of Jennifer's death. The first breakthrough came from the forensic pathology results. The medical examiner noticed a lethal contradiction. The bruises on Jennifer's back and shoulders had colors and hematoma patterns vastly different from the fatal wound on her head. While the head injury was fresh, the shoulder bruises had begun to turn pale yellow, a sign they occurred at least 24 to 48 hours before the fall. This completely debunked the single fall theory. Jennifer had been abused prior to the incident. The fall was merely the staged final blow. As a systems engineer, Richard Bierman took pride in the smart home he designed. He believed he could control all data flows and erase every digital footprint. But he forgot a fundamental rule of modern investigation. Data never truly disappears. It only hides. During the second interrogation, Richard stated in a somber tone, "I was in the basement at the time, checking the water filtration system. I heard a loud noise, like a heavy object falling. Then I ran up and found her. Oh God, she was already lying there." However, data analysts extracted information from the home's central hub. Motion sensors in the second-floor hallway, directly above the stairs, recorded someone standing still for 8 minutes prior to the accident. No one was in the basement at that time. Worse, the health app on Jennifer's smartwatch recorded her heart rate skyrocketing to 140 beats per minute, a state of extreme terror, at 2:12 p.m., before stopping completely just 3 minutes later. This was the tension spike. A horrific truth emerged. Richard never ran to save his wife. He stood there, at the top of the stairs, watching her tremble in fear, and perhaps he pushed her or used a heavy object to deliver the final strike before sending her body downward. The investigation shifted from vague suspicion to the consolidation of legal proof. Police searched for the actual murder weapon. While they found no bloody objects in the house, they noticed a strange entry in Richard's shopping history. A premium hydraulic wrench set purchased a week earlier, with the largest wrench missing from the kit. Detectives turned to the backyard. Beneath an old pine tree where the soil had been clumsily disturbed, they found a sealed plastic bag. Inside was the missing wrench, still carrying strands of hair and traces of human tissue. DNA testing immediately confirmed it belonged to Jennifer. At this point, Richard was no longer the poor husband. An arrest warrant was signed. He was led away amidst the shock of the elite neighborhood. The case file moved to the prosecutor's office with an indictment for first-degree murder. However, Richard still had a team of expensive defense lawyers. They argued the DNA-stained wrench resulted from an accident while Richard was repairing furniture, and Jennifer had touched it. They attempted to downgrade direct evidence to circumstantial evidence, to sow seeds of doubt in the jurors' minds. Richard Bierman's trial became a media sensation. Prosecutors meticulously moved through the stages, from proving motive, the massive insurance sum and the urge for absolute control, to presenting detailed forensic analysis. Step by step, they reconstructed Jennifer's final 15 minutes. The courtroom fell silent when the recovered recording from the smart home system was played. Richard's cold voice, "You think you can leave me?" followed by the victim's faint sobs. Tension reached a breaking point as the prosecutor presented the chain of custody for the wrench, proving there was no tampering or error in the evidence collection. By now, Richard's title in news reports and investigative dialogue had changed. He was no longer the husband. In the eyes of the public and the law, he was the perpetrator, a predator hiding behind an intellectual mask. This shift reflected a legal reality. Richard had lost the right to social protection through sympathy. Under the pressure of undeniable digital evidence, Richard's mask shattered. He lost his usual composure. In a moment of lost control in court, when questioned about the insurance increase, Richard barked, "I just wanted to make sure she belonged to me, dead or alive." That sentence officially sealed the verdict for his life. The trial entered its final hours. No more polished excuses, no more crocodile tears on the intellectual's face. Richard Bierman sat there, eyes sunken, staring into the void as the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. The judge handed down a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The moment the sentence was read, Richard did not flinch. He let out a faint, bone-chilling smirk, the smile of a man who believed he was still the master of the game, even as that game ended in a dark cell. From this moment on, in every legal record and on the lips of everyone who knew him, Mr. Richard was dead. In his place was him, an inmate with a cold ID number, a cold-blooded killer who took the life of the woman he swore to protect. Why would a successful, educated man of status like Richard commit such a brutal act against his wife? The answer lies in the social mask framework. This is a state where a perpetrator builds a flawless, false persona to hide deep-seated internal flaws. For Richard, maintaining the ideal husband image was not about love for Jennifer, but about satisfying his own narcissism. He needed a beautiful, submissive wife as a piece of jewelry to complete his life's portrait. When Jennifer showed signs of wanting to break free, to open her school and reclaim her identity, Richard's mask cracked. He could not accept the loss of control. In his distorted mind, if Jennifer did not belong to him entirely, she was not allowed to belong to anyone or any other dream. A life sentence is not just punishment for murder. It is the permanent stripping away of the social mask he spent years constructing. Now, he must face the reality that he is a failure in his own game of control. The Richard Bierman case is closed, but the shadow it cast over the West Palm Beach community remains. We often wonder, how do you identify a monster when it is smiling and pouring you tea every afternoon? The central question is not just, why did Richard kill? But how such toxic control could exist under the cover of perfection for so long without anyone noticing. Neighbors still pass by the now sealed villa, shuddering as they remember the tea parties where Jennifer tried to send distress signals with her eyes, only to be ignored because of the outward glamour. Connecting back to the social mask framework, we realize a new layer of doubt. How many other Richards are living among us, using success and politeness to imprison loved ones in colorless glass cages? Digital evidence can expose a crime, but it cannot heal the years of soul wounds the victim suffered before the tragedy occurred. There is one final small detail the police never publicized. On Jennifer's phone, There was a draft message never sent, dated the afternoon of her death. It read only 3 words: "I fear him." Jennifer had seen through the monster behind the mask, but she did not run fast enough from the hands of the man who called himself her husband. Justice has called Richard's name. The sentence has been carried out. But the echo of fear in that West Palm Beach villa remains. A chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying darkness is not found in dark alleys, but within the warmth of a calculated embrace.